All right. I'm recording now, so we should be on better behavior. The noise is coming from the mic and Hangout, and I fixed that. Oh. Okay, is that any better? Okay. All right, so it didn't like having Bluetooth and my computer connected to it at the same time. All right. Do we have, is Helen around? Again?
Michael here from the VMAX team. Hal just down and yeah,
Okay.
There we go.
All right, good. Then I don't have to panic that I have to ping anybody. And I gotta tell people what we're talking about. Okay. Michael or Helen, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. I'll take this one.
Cool, thanks.
So, background, we were doing qualification on encrypted volumes for the Rocky release. And as part of that qualification process, we were testing and using Barbican encrypted volumes with the live migration functionality. So we were testing live migrating volumes from host A to host B, where Barbican lived on a third controller node. And whilst we could provision volumes and instances on both of those compute nodes, we couldn't migrate between them. We were getting issues coming back out of Barbican where it couldn't parse the wired identity endpoints, so the version from the birth endpoints. So it was coming back would look like a none or a full stop and incorrect value. So I guess the main question was, is this something that has been tested before in a multi-node dev stack environment? And do you know if it's something that's possible? Or do you guys have any ideas or suggestions on that kind of setup?
I know that there was, hi.
Hey, Michael.
Hi, Michael. Yeah, I know that in the past we had a job that used to test the live migration between different backends, the volume migration. But I don't know the status of that. I haven't checked it.
It wouldn't have Barbican in it anyway.
Yeah, but I would say that we have a job that tested the live migration, but it didn't have the Barbican. And maybe if it's still available, we could add the Barbican support or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I can see the key value pairs in Barbican.conf where you specify, and within obviously Cinder and Nova where you specify that you're using Barbican as your encryption manager. So it actually seems that there's some call going on there where it's trying to make the calls to get to your Barbican service to get the key for the volume for migrating to the next host, but it's that call exactly that is failing. So I think in the launchpad for it, there's actual reference to it there. I'll read out the exact error. So could not find version identity endpoints when attempting to authenticate. Please check if your auth URL is correct. Discovery failure. So I mean the key value pairs are in there, so it just might be something that's untested. It could be a bug in Barbican. Yeah, it's the Barbican Castellan.key manager, Barbican key manager. So that's where the error originates from.
Do we have anybody who's worked with Barbican?
Yeah. And, you know,
Yeah, a little bit, but never encountered this specific issue, but we haven't tested live migration either, so.
so I mean, one of the errors there is showing that it can't, well, this doesn't make sense anyway, because one of the errors is failed to discover available identity versions when contacting localhost identity v3. Was that supposed to be hitting an unversioned keystone endpoint to do discovery? Would be my guess, but I'm not sure why.
Ooh. I think the problem is that. Yeah.
Part of the problem is I don't think any of us are familiar with how multi-node DevStack deploys and configures any of this stuff. Since,
Yeah, that would be one problem.
or whether it's known to even reliably work. So I mean, it could just be that there's some config stuff in the multi-node DevStack deployment that doesn't work right with Barbican or something in here.
Have you checked the Nova section for Barbican?
Yeah,
Yes.
we did, yeah.
Okay.
So there was no issues with creating encrypted volumes on any of the compute nodes. And it was only that the issues arose.
All right.
So Barbican seems to be working fine in every instance, apart from just when we try to migrate from one compute node to another.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, so we have our secret store is created there fine. We're able to get our URLs from it. And services are up and running on the controller for the Barbican key manager, that's fine. So yeah, it works perfectly except in the live migration instance. So it's just something we come up and, like I said, in our qualification process, just to make sure that if we're going to claim full support for it, that it was one of the cases that we had to tick off.
Thoughts on how we want to proceed with this one, now that we're aware of the bug?
No, I still have a multi-node environment. It's stacked off stable Rocky at the moment. If you guys have any kind of logs or anything, I can rerun the operation called detailed debug logs from a number of services if you think that would help. I know there's limited details available in that launchpad. So it
Well, it looks like
does help with it.
it looks like we probably would want the debug log around the context for the Nova failure. I assume it's in the attach encryptor stuff, but I'm not really positive.
So you need debug logs from Nova Compute?
Yeah, I mean, it has just the surrounding stuff for the error that's already here. I assume it's failing on the key manager get operation.
Let's see there. Yeah, so it is Cinder client v3 client get call to Cinder v3 for volume v3/key encryption, and then OS break encryptors followed by keystone identity. Said fail to discover available identity versions when contacting or service /identity/v3, attempting to parse version from URL full stop. And I think it was that full stop that we kind of things, we should there have been maybe it's an incorrect parse, it's a parse error, because I would have assumed that maybe the URL was put in there or something.
Well, I think that's a chain of a couple messages from Keystone middleware, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is that, I mean, does localhost/identity/v3 actually exist at all?
It does, yeah. You can actually put that into the URL browser. Actually go and browse it, and you can get data back from it. So there is information there.
Okay.
The problem seems to be that it's trying to connect to v3 instead of the root.
I think it's supposed to be hitting a version list.
No, because it's trying to parse the version.
Right, I think it's supposed to be.
Oh, from URL. From URL, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, sorry. Never mind.
So I don't know.
I'm asleep.
I'm just wondering if there's some config that's pointing it to /v3 when it really shouldn't have the /v3 on the end of it. But I don't know what config that actually is at the moment.
Do we want to keep interactively debugging this, or do we want to take this offline?
Probably offline.
Okay. So I think part of the problem was we haven't seen this bug yet, and now we're aware of it. So,
May not necessarily be a Cinder bug.
yeah. Eric, are you able to work with Michael on it?
I can, but I mean, I'm going to be out of the office for a couple of weeks after this.
Oh, okay.
Eventually, sure.
Okay. How urgent is this, Michael?
Anyway, so that works fine with me.
Okay, so this isn't an urgent thing?
No, it's more of a qualification thing. We could just not say that it's fully supported as of yet. We can assist that in advance of chatting to Ian Eric, and the next time what I can do is I'll run the operations again with debug turned on, and I'll get as much information out of Nova, Cinder, and Barbican that I can and then that will make a good foundation from at least where to go looking whenever we next talk.
That sounds like a good plan to me.
If there's any other logs or anything else that you think I should be looking at, drop me over an email or a message, and then I'll get that ready also.
All right.
Okay, so we got a plan going forward on that one.
Can you write his whole name there, Michael, so I can actually find him later? Or is it in the bug?
I think it's in the bug, but I'll put it in there.
Well, the bug was from Helen.
Oh, okay. What's your last name, Michael? Are you Michael McClear?
Michael Leary, yeah, that's me.
Okay, how do you spell that?
So hang on, I'll just MC.
Yep.
Space ALER. Perfect. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, but that was what I thought, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
So nice to actually talk to you.
Yeah. Same. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Did you guys also have, was it somebody for your team with the storage live migration issue?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
welcome.
Yeah. So
Okay, oh, so this is okay, feature proposal.
yeah, but let me introduce myself. My
Okay.
name is Hoàng. I and my team have been contributing to OpenStack for nearly 4 years, and we were mainly focused on neutral networking, ironic bare metal, and Golang Ansible. Recently, we are working from Fujitsu, Vietnam. Fujitsu.
Okay.
Recently, we got some new requirement in UK involving to cinder block storage development. So the slot for cinder API for storage live migration is one of our customer requirement. So let me explain the UK because of that, we are new in cinder development, so we not strict plan to accomplish the different in Stein cycle. The UK is the when we upgrade the feature driver and the upgrade driver with different storage interface and need some performance optimization with the new version of driver. So we need to migrate the volume with lift in this hot to another hot in order to perform the firmware driver firmware upgrade. So, but that is the final our goal. But in the initial, we would like to propose the storage lift migration with the popular backend driver like LVM first.
I think that we do support.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
migration.
I feel like we support that somehow, and it's really more of a Nova thing.
By one API call, by just
So what you want to do is to just make one call to
Yeah.
Cinder
Yeah.
or to Nova and to have all the volumes from one backend migrated to another
yeah, right.
You have
with a
to,
single call.
It's like
Yes.
the
yeah,
Oh,
like you have
wait,
to do a retype.
Oh, all right.
That's a
Yeah.
retype, right?
No,
I think
no,
it's
no, no.
Nova. I think it's Nova evacuate is the analogous
maybe.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
just by
I
one-
think that it was part of the retyping
No,
process.
you can do it, but one by one. You cannot say, okay, I want to evacuate everything I have on this storage to this other storage. You have to go one by one.
Yeah.
Retyping all of them.
Yeah.
Is that the problem? You don't want to go
Yeah.
retyping all of your volumes.
By just one API code.
But retype all the volumes from one backend to the other.
Yeah.
Bulk. It's like a bulk operation.
Yeah.
But that is the final goal is for our visual driver. But in the initial, we want to focus on some popular backend like LVM first or E. That is the UK and our customer requirement.
I was thinking about, because in the end you want to
We have different volume types.
it's like if you want to migrate it. Do you have replication in your volume, in your storage?
Actually, I have not yet the put enough information for you at the moment because we have to get this requirement a week before the PTG. So we are finalizing the spec.
Okay. Yeah, my question is if you have replication on your storage, because if you have replication, then you can create all your volumes replicated to the storage, or create a replication target where you want to move, and then you can do a failover, and all your volumes will be in the other storage.
Yeah, that would be an easier way of handling it.
But it depends on your storage having replication. I don't know if
So what storage, so you're offering to do this generically for LVM initially, right?
Yeah.
What is the target storage long-term that your customer wants to do it on?
Our target for our visual driver.
Okay, so
Because recently our visual driver had just provide a new version operating with the new different storage interface and performance optimization.
Okay.
So that require our own volume in its old version of storage move to another by just one API call.
In having an external script, Python script, just using Cinder client as a library and making the calls one by one is not an option, because I'm thinking about what you want to do, but there are a number of potential issues when you start doing it, because you want to move volumes from one backend to another backend in Cinder, and the volume types may not be acceptable on the new backend, because if your volume types are in the extra specs are saying the volume must be on this backend, and you try to move them to another backend, the volume type does not accept that, so it will fail. And you may also have different volume types, so you cannot just change the type. I think there are a number of things that need to be sorted out. Maybe you have enumerated them and resolved them in the spec.
Yeah.
But I think those are some situations that could be problematic, right?
Can you retype an in-use volume?
Yeah, sure.
Also the data.
Well, I don't think
data copy,
retype is necessarily what you
all the
want.
data.
No.
Yeah.
I think you want to migrate.
Yeah, but you want to
Yeah.
migrate but if the migration
Yeah, it
breaks the
still-
volume type,
Still checks the type. Yeah.
exactly, that's where
And also, if you're migrating, you're going to have to copy all data to the new storage. If you're copying, you're probably copying volume by volume. That would be the same operation as just retyping volume by volume.
yes, but they want a single call.
Yeah.
It does sound like there's potential to script this up outside of Cinder to start with.
Because it's going to be a serial process regardless, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be parallel.
Unless you do the replication. The replication, it will just be same.
For replication too, I
I don't think you want to use
remember
replication.
there are some solutions with SAP. With SAP.
That?
Yeah.
But we're
But the situation is the same.
right.
You either use some kind of retype, in which case you come from 5 different volume types. Maybe if you do a retype to a single one, you may be breaking things. It's not that useful in that case, right? If I have my set volume type that does not do replication and another volume type that is doing replication, and I want to move everything from that cluster, I cannot just retype everything to a single type, because then both volumes that were not replicated will now be replicated, or the other way around.
Yeah.
It doesn't kind of work.
Same would apply for encryption.
And if you want to do a migrate, if your volume type specifies a backend, you cannot do a migration, because then the volume type does not match the reality.
Yeah, but the retype, you can retype for any type, right?
Yeah,
Because you
bro,
don't copy the data.
retype.
That's
You can
almost,
do-
that's essentially a destructive operation though. If you have 5 or 6 volume types and you retype them all and move them, you have to somehow keep track of what types they were and how to reassemble them, because you lose all that from the sender.
Or have a mapping
Yeah.
of, for this volume type in the source, I want this volume type in destination.
Oh, yeah. What I mean was, you have two volume types, different volume types, the source and the destination. The only thing that you want to change now is the backend naming, because they are different. Because the backend's name is different, and it will need to copy all the data in the destination, and then you can have all your specs and encryption in the destination, but in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
Is this with the VM still using the volumes?
Uh-huh.
Is the VM still active that has these volumes?
Yeah.
Yes.
So how does the VM get notified that it's to switch over to these new volumes?
Well, that's a standard feature we have already.
We have that already?
Live volume retype, for example, when you retype a volume and it's in use, that will, I believe that currently works.
Well, this
It would be the same.
well, is it?
Yeah. But
So
you're
if,
basically doing a bulk operation. Yeah.
so if I'm a storage provider and you're a storage provider, and I have the volume, and now I'm going to move it over here, how does the VM live switch over to use the new volume? Because it's got a volume open, it's got a vSCSI volume open to the KVM. So the KVM has to switch the volume.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
how it
that's what we do. We
We do
create
that?
a volume,
Okay.
we initialize it,
All right.
we pass it to Nova, and we tell them, please do the live migration yourself. We cannot do it, because if we start moving data and you writing data, it's going to be a mess. So Nova is the one doing the hard work there, but we have it.
So we're going to have to, for this, you have to do the exact same thing.
Yes, but we are trying to figure out how to do it, because we cannot just do a retype, because we have 100 volumes with 5 different volume types that doesn't map to a single volume type. If you want to do migration, the checks we have will fail, because the volume type still needs to be true when you move things. So that's where we are. Like, I can't figure out. Well, I can figure out, but it's
I don't know.
if it failed. I mean, we could potentially, when you request this, check the volume type of each volume that is in that backend. If it's specifying a specific backend and you're moving to a different one, you could change the volume type to map it. But what happens if it fails in the middle of the operation? You have a mess in there. So it's
Big mess.
yeah. I don't see a clear path where this works for any case. We could create something that only works for example, if your volume types don't have, if your volume types don't specify the backend, then we can do it. Because it's basically a migration and it will work. That could be like, this is a limitation. You can only do it if this is, if this is true. Otherwise, I don't see how we can overcome this. I don't see any of our options working unless you provided a mapping on the call with all the volume changes. Like in the sources, this volume type, please retype to this other, this to this, this to this. But that's a little bit crazy, I think. That's why I'm having trouble
Yeah, and in
seeing.
the end, it will be a lot of operations individually sent to know how to move volume by volume. So honestly, I don't see any big advantage on doing a bulk operation.
Well, and we've said no to bulk operations in the past.
Yeah.
To create bulk volume.
And
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure
but
it's
can
you-
a bulk
different.
operation if
can you
if you
explain
model it.
why is scripting? I don't know if you knew about this operation in Cinder that is possible to do a live migration for one volume. Did you know about that?
Actually, I just got get this new requirement recently, so and also do not have currently have not yet much experience with the Cinder.
Okay.
So right, I need to get help from Cinder community, and I and my team will start to investigate.
Okay.
That is the reason I mentioned that the spec will be finalized in state, not implementation. We need time to evolve to Cinder community.
Yeah. So
So maybe some technical question I have not be able to answer to you right now.
okay, no problem.
Mhm.
Yeah. So maybe you should come back with this option.
Yeah.
To get volume by volume, and retype them to the new backend.
Yeah.
This new backend can have the same or similar specs as the source backend, but it's a different backend. It's a new name in the backend. Then you can move volume by volume, and then you can free the source backend. But you have to do that by calling a script which calls the Cinder API several times for each volume that you have in your source.
Yeah,
So this
actually,
is a option.
my coworker already tried with this solution, but our customer doesn't want to follow this way. I know that currently Cinder have some API to do the volume migration one by one,
Mhm.
and we will try to experimental with some example.
Mhm.
They want just by one click or one API call to migrate all the volume in current storage node to another storage node.
I see. So that would be most on user experience, user point of view, an easy way to do the migration.
Yes. Well, I think regarding what we mentioned earlier about this being a bulk operation, I think this is slightly different.
So if you model it after what Nova Evacuate does, that's not really what I would call a bulk operation. It's really I want to maintain, do maintenance on this host, get everything off of it. It might be worth considering whether that would be useful for Cinder too.
I think it seems useful.
And the nice thing about having it as an actual operation is you could, say Cinder evacuate some host, and before it did anything, it could do all the computation of volume types for all the volumes and tell you if it has any chance of doing it or if it should just not even
You would test the
start.
mappings or
No,
which type
no,
do you
what
want?
he's saying is you do the checks and you say, hey, I cannot do the whole operation because this volume type, I
Oh.
cannot move it.
I think
And
that-
then you can go and fix things.
So if it was like a volume backend name type, it would be like I can't.
yeah, that
Yeah,
would just-
fix this
the-
volume
the-
type.
The prerequisite would be that the admin would have to just have the volume types all be able to be satisfied by some other node. And if they didn't, then it would just tell you that I can't find anywhere to move the stuff to.
Yeah, but my question is, if the volume types doesn't match, it will happen a migration with retype.
No, what we need to do is a pre-check to confirm that the operation we will be able to complete it.
Well,
You tell me evacuate this backend to this other, and I start checking the volumes and the volume types
Yeah.
to tell you what is wrong or
Or, and I
Yeah,
don't
but
understand.
imagine the situation, you have source and destination, and the source you have five types here, and the destination you only have one.
Yeah, but no, but it's,
You're going
that's
to
the
do a
thing.
type of migration from all those types to the new type.
Not
We're
necessarily,
not changing the types is the point.
because you can do, what we are talking, instead of retype, do a migration.
Oh,
Because,
okay.
so your types cannot be locked to a
Okay, okay.
specific one. That's,
Yeah, but the ones that is not possible, you can give the option for the user to do a retype with migration.
basically you would fail and say, hey, these volume types do
Not
not
necessary.
permit this operation to
Not
complete.
necessary, you have to fail. You can just retype with
No,
using
you
the
don't want to
nodes.
retype, because then you don't know what type you want to use. And you go into the whole madness of having a mapping from source to destination. It's easier to tell, since this is an administrator operation, just let him know, I cannot do this.
Okay. You have to first configure your destination backend and make sure that it has the types that you have in the source.
Not the types, that the type all the volumes from the source have can be met by the destination.
Get it?
I think that could be idea. In summary, we think there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
But in some cases, depending on how the volumes on the source are,
Yeah.
you may make the request and get a detailed error saying you have to fix a couple of things
Yeah.
before trying again.
Yeah.
And if the operator fixes them, the whole evacuation could go through.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good feature to have.
Evacuate would be.
Yeah, exactly.
So what happens if the evacuation fails midstream?
I don't think you would really,
I don't think
User.
I don't think you would really track it as an evaluate operation so much as you would start it with evacuate, and then the volume manager or whoever would sit there and look through doing retypes or migrates.
Right,
I
but
think in the end
so
it's
if
like
at some point it failed,
Yeah.
we would say, oh, we got these volumes across and these we didn't.
or
You would just not see your volumes. The source
no,
backends.
or you would just set user error messages or something, because right now we have that same situation if you do a replication failover. In
Sure.
RBD, we do volume by volume, so there are cases where one can fail.
And trust me, I already have a mission to add a -- poll operation with user messages to like every command that we have because of that problem.
Okay.
And this is another case where it would help.
Can user messages be limited to the administrator on the operation, or because this, if you fail to do the migration,
So you would have to tie them to the right ID. You know, you wouldn't want to put them all in the volumes, right? You'd want to tie it to some other ID. So somehow we could figure out how to do it.
okay,
But we wouldn't put them all on the volume IDs, because then the user would be sitting there saying,
Yeah.
I didn't ask for any of these, like, why do I see all these?
exactly. So we need, basically all that needs to be figured out is that part, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's worth looking into. Sounds interesting.
Mhm.
So it's possible for us to propose a specification for this theater.
I think they can go forward with this space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think space is better place for discussion and get the final solution. So actually, we expect the specification can be finalized in just 10 cycle. So for implementation, we meanwhile during the investigation and modification, we will investigate into the cinder softcode development. And we plan to the next cycle, T cycle, we will submit the softcode for the development.
Yeah. In the spec should take into account the decisions we are mentioning here.
Yeah.
In the Etherpad. Okay.
Maybe we should ask the Nova guys if they're about to delete the evacuate command.
Oh.
That's been a thing a couple times. Just to make sure. And maybe you gotta figure out what OpenStack client calls it.
But I still think that if you, instead of failing the migration, you could just set a default volume type that the backend will try to specify that volume type. If it doesn't find it, migrates, retype the migrations.
No,
You can't though, because if you have encrypted volumes, you can't
Ah.
encrypt them because then you're
Volumes you
causing a
can't.
security hazard. And,
So
I mean, it's,
I think just doing a pre-check, and then if there's an error, report it somehow in the
Someone
user
fixes it.
messages, but only viewable by the administrator.
Mhm.
And because from the user's perspective, they haven't noticed anything.
Yes,
They don't know where the volume is. They never knew.
right.
So that's the whole point. They don't know. They don't care. The volume, in effect, is going to be the same. And if the operation, when you're evacuating, fails, it's not a big deal. The volume is still in the source.
Yes,
The admin goes, fix things,
And the-
and they tries again. And when it has completed, they can start with the firmware upgrade or whatever they need in the source.
yeah, correct.
Sounds
Sounds good.
sounds good.
Do you have people on your team that will be able to implement the feature?
Yeah, actually, the guy proposed in blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Blueprint, this guy will focusing on this feature.
Okay.
And if need, I can provide more engineer to this feature. Because my team in Vietnam have 14 members now, and we contribute for so many projects, and Cinder is one of them.
Okay.
Great.
Great.
14 members now.
That's good.
well, good.
Good.
But for Cinder community, we are new, so
Yes,
something
welcome.
Very welcome.
We're always happy to have more people coming and helping out. So and if they, as they're working on implementing this, if they have questions or concerns or need any help, obviously join the Cinder channel and feel free to reach out to us and ask for guidance. So
Yeah, we'll surely contribute a lot on refining the spec and everything. So.
yeah,
And if at some point you want to bring the topic to the weekly meeting,
Yes,
you're welcome as well.
yeah, this is probably one that after we get away through the spec a little bit, we'll need to meet up in the weekly meeting to discuss it further. How many hours ahead is Vietnam from here?
we use UTC +7.
+7.
Plus 7.
It's
We're at-
late. It's really late.
Oh,
for
10
the-
It's
p.m.
like 13.
11 hours off the meeting's about 10 p.m. in your time zone.
It's okay. Yeah, because we usually join the neutral community from 9 p.m. and some other meeting at 10 p.m. Yeah, actually, recently I enrolled in neutral room over there,
Okay.
and 10 p.m. is no problem.
Okay.
I believe.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, all right. Well, welcome, and we'll look forward to working on this feature here with you guys.
Yeah, thank you for your help. We will try our best.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Next.
I think this is like a 5-minute one.
Okay. You say that,
I know.
and
I mean, I'm usually wrong.
all right.
IRC sound. So.
Hey, you guys wouldn't let me play them here, so. I can't spell reinitialize.
Well, we may have to rename that.
Whatever. All right. So,
Cool.
so third-party CI should run tests. Yes.
Yes. We should actually have it run the cinder test. That is my
Yeah, the
main
ones
point
that
of my
are,
proposal.
are not on Tempest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how would us require and request that from vendors? Because that was always a problem. We have the tests, but people just doesn't run them on their CIs.
Yes.
So this actually is interesting, and I'll admit I'm too stupid to really understand this, but Julia and I had a discussion. Okay, so we've been trying to get our third-party CI for Ironic to run for 3 months now.
For Lenovo.
For Lenovo, and on Ironic. And like 3 weeks into it, he almost had it.
Mhm.
The problem was he was on Zool v3, and we didn't know this, but the Ironic tests that were only being used by people on v2 and didn't work with v3, blew up. We thought we were doing something wrong and spent 2 months going down the wrong path on debug. And in this process, she came up with the idea that we should have the ability to have a repository somewhere that tells third-party CIs what tests to run.
That's funny. I think I suggested that like 4 years ago.
Okay.
Because it's hard for people to know how to actually set the thing up right.
And so I don't know how that works, but the idea was that, Cinder and Ironic and et cetera would have a repository out there that would be available, and they would set up their third-party CI and point at it, and then it would, so if we wanted to say, hey, you need to now run Gorka's tests for Cinderlib, we push a change to that, and then all of their third-party CIs, the next time they spin up a job, start running.
So is this I'm trying to follow what would actually be in this repository. Are we talking Tempest tests or something more
Yes.
broad?
Yeah, it would define what Tempest tests to run.
Basically, return the rejects that people call.
The thing is,
Let's say.
I think the answer is usually that they're supposed to run all of them, and they temporarily disable some if there's a problem. But I thought the theory was that they're supposed to run all of them, basically. I don't really know what we would put in this.
I'm probably not explaining it well. I'm pinging Julia to see if she could come chat with us, because she's far smarter than I am and can explain it.
Well, for a more near-term
Okay.
task, since we presumably are going to go poke everybody with a third-party CI to ask them to run Python 3 anyway, we should probably, in that same message, include also we have a Cinder Tempest plugin, and you're expected to use it in third-party CI. We're going to contact them all anyway. It seems like we should ask for that as well, because that is what it's kind of for.
So, isn't that what the third-party CIs are doing right now? Is the Cinder running the third-party CI tests, or running the Tempest volume tests?
Well, they need to run the Cinder Tempest plugin tests too.
Oh,
And a lot of them aren't doing that.
okay.
There's also a more subtle issue of a lot of them turning off assorted Tempest tests when we should really be encouraging them to get them turned back on. And we have no real way to monitor that because you have to go read the log files, basically. I don't really know what to do about that. other than try to, script up something that's gonna,
Yeah, the thing is, there are some backends that just doesn't support some features, and they can't
well,
run the tests.
I think that's true, but that stuff is supposed to be handled with Tempest options. I mean, if there's tests in Tempest that don't succeed on all backends, we usually have an option that says this feature is supported or not. But what happens more often is that some test fails and then it gets turned off. And it might be something that should work and they're just missing some config or there's some bug in Tempest or Cinder or wherever. And the problem is once that happens, they tend to not get turned back on anytime soon.
And see, I mean, that would kind of be an advantage of us having more control over what they're running. Though you're saying that might not work because some of them legitimately need to disable the test.
Well, it would be good to have an example of what that is.
Okay.
That's probably true, but off the top of my head, I'm not sure where that's actually true.
Yes, for example, for our case, for that app, we doesn't support the volume extend.
The what?
Volume extend, online volume extend.
Right.
So we cannot run those
And
tests.
since we know that that's backend dependent, we should have an option in Tempest that says feature enabled volume extend. And it would make sense to turn them off with that, but what mostly happens is they just regex them out.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if all the limitations are covered by Tempest options enabling or disabling. So
I think
that
they're
is true
supposed
for
to.
all the things it would work.
I mean, I think they're supposed to be. They're probably not. But yeah.
Um,
That's the support to the next talk. So they are very closely related.
oh, okay. I'm trying to use your influence to move on to this.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't know where else to go with this for right now.
okay. So I think part of it would be to see if I can get Julia to come explain what she was trying to explain to me. Because my thought when I was talking to her is, oh, we need you to talk to Eric.
Okay.
And see if we can do something with that. I have my usual, I need to go through and look at what drivers are not running their CI and do my be mean and propose removal. Should maybe do, Sean has done this a little bit, some spot checking of, okay, it looks like they're actually returning valid results versus not. We can work on doing that. So I should be marking these as actions. You get it out, Al?
Yeah,
Thanks for coming. It's good to have you here.
thank you, everyone.
The edge
Nice to see you all
discussion was
again.
helpful.
I'll see you guys next month.
Um,
Should we just ship a third-party CI container at this point?
What's that?
Should we just ship a third-party CI container?
So a container that somebody can drop on their system
Good one.
and just run it?
Bye.
Bye.
I don't know, maybe. I don't know how people actually usually build these things.
So the way they built these things is a flipping nightmare.
No,
And I feel bad
I know that
now
part.
for all the people that I've made do this after trying to do one kind of myself.
Yeah.
I've just been consulting on it more than anything, and it sucks.
Yep.
And the worst part is now V2 Zool, we had people who had stuff running, and it was fine. Now they've moved to V3. They won't support V2, but there's no documentation on how to use it.
We still run
I don't
V2
see why that
and
matters.
we don't have any problems with that, with jobs or anything.
I mean, it looked very different to me, the V2 versus V3.
No, I'm sure it is, but I don't know why it matters which one you run.
Because the team will not support Zool V2. They're like, nope, we're on V3. And there's no documentation explaining how to properly configure it. And then what documentation was there was wrong. So, anyway, it was,
Yeah, having either a container or image that can be used.
it would be a, well, I suppose,
I don't know.
so spitballing on that for a second, just for fun, since we're not running behind. So this is my understanding of how third-party CI runs, right?
I thought you were pointing at the.
No, not the edge diagram. I was trying to explain to the Linvick guy last night what I know.
I'm recording your backend.
All right.
Oh, you got such a nice background. That, so you've got a node that runs as your Jenkins master and has node pool on it and Zool, right? And those pieces talk back to GitHub to get the code and monitor Garrett for changes. And so when they see a change, it fires off node pool. Node pool talks to a compute node spins up a node, sends it back to Jenkins. Jenkins makes it a slave. The slave then says, I'm here, sends it back to Jenkins. Jenkins runs whatever you put on there. In this case, it would be you load up DevStack, you put Cinder on there, you configure your scripts to point to whatever your backend is so that it's actually testing it, run tox-etempest, and then do the volume tests. And eventually, this guy gets torn down and everything gets sent back up to Garrett with a result. Does that seem right based on what people know?
Sounds right.
Okay.
It also seems more architecturally complicated.
Well, it is, but this is the recommended way of doing things. There are lots of other ways that people have been doing this. So are you thinking that we could build up this guy and put him in a container that is with directions that say, set this up to point to your GitHub account and your Garrett account, and where is your compute node, and what scripts do you want to run on here, and hit a button, and it might, in theory, take a person a couple of weeks less of banging their head against the wall.
I mean, that sounds like a theory. I have no idea if it would work or not because I don't know anything about node pool or Jenkins and stuff. So I'm the wrong person.
Oh, I'm the wrong
judge
person.
if it makes any sense or not. But
Well, hey, Matt Smith, container guy.
Yeah.
Could you in theory build a container that had Jenkins loaded in it, Zool, node pool, and then,
Massive.
If we,
yeah,
Jake,
yeah.
if we are talking about Zoom V3, why don't we use Jenkins though?
yeah, I was kind of wondering that too.
The issue with putting all of those in a single container is generally
Oh, really?
Yep.
containers are something that you can restart easily in it. So if any one of those pieces fails, you have to restart the whole container
Okay,
because there's nothing in there to let you restart a single piece of it. You have to
Oh.
restart the whole thing.
okay, so you'd want separate containers.
Generally speaking, you want to go with smaller containers rather than larger.
Yeah.
Normally you have one for each service.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not like I already have enough trouble running like a driver and iSCSI daemon in the same container. Like that's already a nightmare. I can't imagine running all of those things in a single container
Okay,
rather than having separate ones.
sorry, I'm still
They're trying to containerize a lot of the setup for
third-party CI.
Oh,
It's just spitballing at the moment.
So is this to make it easier for people to use?
The idea
That's
is,
the idea.
the question is, can we actually just hand out a thing that says, go try to deploy this, plug your machine into it?
Yeah, put in your usernames and passwords here and.
If you already have an OpenStack cloud, yeah, it's easy.
I didn't
But
really
the
know.
hardest part of it is building the OpenStack cloud.
Yeah. Like the problem is you need the OpenStack cloud and your storage hardware and everything pre-set up.
Exactly.
Yes, but if you start doing like fiber channel and stuff, it gets a little crazy.
Yeah.
That part's the hardest. Like setting up like Zool and all that. I mean, it's not so bad. It's the like the infrastructure is the hard part.
That wasn't our experience, but we were also the first people to try to go do Zool v3 with a third-party CI for Ironic, and the documentation was wrong.
Oh yeah, no, you have to read the source code.
Yeah,
It's self-documented.
But it also means you have to run the source code too, because you can't actually tell what anyone.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It took like a weekend. I got Zool v3 running in Kubernetes. It's easy.
Okay, we know.
So are
Or just
you,
use Patrick.
yeah, can we just borrow yours then?
No, you probably don't want it.
Yeah, I
It's
haven't
running,
looked,
not running well.
yeah, I haven't looked at how recently you've reported.
Pretty recent because we just got some driver change in. Had to go kick it a few times, but it worked.
Okay. Well, anyway, it sounds like that's a much more complicated discussion for a day where we're not all
Something we
exhausted.
should probably explore, because if it's that hard for people that know stuff.
Well, for a long time, there was the one guy, Remy,
Yeah,
who was like, that was like his whole thing was trying to like document vulnerabilities. But I
and
don't
then
know.
he went the way of HPE.
As I remember, John, sort of like the past create own scripts for CI.
Yeah, he had
Oh,
something
yeah.
way smaller than this.
Yeah, it was very similar.
Yeah. Which I don't care how you run it as long as it runs properly.
Yeah, but we should probably facilitate this. We can use it
Well,
as our reference.
And Sean has literally like 300 lines of code that does it all. And it's way easier
Well,
than
most,
this tool.
most of the people that do that way, they don't handle the hands-on stuff.
Yeah.
Which is, it's okay, most of the time. Zool does all that stuff in there.
We probably want everybody.
Yeah. Because basically it means they can't CI patch series just as much.
Um,
Yeah.
So looks like we need to figure out what our requirements specifically are. So like CIs, and then try to create some documentation or object containers. Reference pictures.
Well, something to think about at least for when we have extra time in our board.
It sounds like never.
Well, thanks for moving that. Okay, so I'll just put a note here. All right. Does that sound good for that for now?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice 5-minute topic. Should we take a 10-minute break and then come back at 10:30 and move forward?
Sounds good.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, guys.